Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Unsurprisingly, this morning, Judge Burroughs has denied the motion Chille filed last night. I mean, everybody except for a 20-year constitutional law scholar and a man who's licensed in two states, in two state bars, and is an LLM or something like that. Everybody except those guys knew that this was going to get denied. So I'm not going to take any credit for predicting the future there. That was just too obvious. Judge Burroughs patiently explained that in addition to the other reasons that she has supplied in previous denials of essentially the same motion, that Chille never actually provided any evidence that he had filed the document. He had alluded to, thought he filed it, etc., but he never actually presented any evidence that he had filed it. Now, that's not to suggest that had he presented evidence, it would have changed the court's opinion. So, Chille, I'm not suggesting you rush out and you file an affidavit or something to try to fix this. If on the 7th, Chille filed his notice of voluntary dismissal, along with an explanation that he had filed it on the 6th, but noticed on the 7th that he had not received confirmation of it, there must have been some sort of glitch because he had filed it. Then, if he did it on the 7th, the court would have looked at it a little bit more charitably, I think. But because he waited as long as he did until about the 10th to file it, that just wasn't going to fly. So I wouldn't suggest that her explanation for denying it this time is independent of all the other explanations. Read each explanation. Each one of them, when you add them together, is like a summation of the reasons why she is denying it. It's not something that had he tweaked one little thing on this last motion that all of a sudden it would have gotten the motion granted. All of a sudden Burroughs would have granted it. I've been criticized on my English skills, and I am a native speaker. We're getting that weird thing, and that's probably because the sun's coming up behind me. I apologize. I'm going to fire my cameraman. So that was not unsurprising. The judge showed a lot of restraint in that she did not threaten sanctions if he filed again. All she said was, if he files essentially the same motion again, she's going to just deny it without explanation. Well, she ordered him not to do it, and she said that if he does it, she's going to deny it without explanation. Now, I want to remind everybody that once you're ordered not to file the same motion again, you could be held in contempt of court if you do it. The court has an inherent power to sanction for contempt, and the court can, under its own power, sanction Chille if he files again. And that's not necessarily under the same sort of constraints as a civil contempt is. There are still he still is entitled to notice and hearing, etc. But it's a little bit different. Anyway, so the court definitely has the power to sanction him if he does it. I don't think, judging by what just happened, if he files it again, I don't think the court's going to sanction him if he files it again that time. I think the judge will deny it without explanation and then say, if you do this again, sanctions will follow. Normally judges like to give a lot of benefit of the doubt, a lot of chances for people to stop being dumb. But yeah, so now I think people were somewhat misconstruing some statements that I had made about the effect that this particular motion might have on his contempt. If the judge is considering two motions at the same time, and the judge is convinced that you're being a poop head in one motion, there's a strong likelihood that that same sentiment is going to carry over to the second motion. Now, that's not a guarantee, but what we call that in at least the circles that I run in is an attempt to prejudice the judge. The first motion might be prejudicial. It might make the judge think poorly of you. And so when the judge looks at the second motion, the judge might be still thinking of you in that same light. Once someone has an opinion of you, it's sometimes hard to shake that. Like, so, some people are always going to think that I'm racist and homophobic, and that I said that Blue Bacon had stolen valor. They're always going to believe that because they have that opinion of me, and it's next to impossible for me to shake it, regardless of anything. And that's fine. I'm not trying to shake anybody's opinion of me. I don't really care, but that's just an example. So there's that. Another thing is, I just want to say that this track record that Chille is accruing, this public track record that Chille is accruing of being incompetent at making legal arguments, undermines the credibility of his statements that he is a law scholar, that he's a 20-year plus constitutional law scholar. He's undermining his own credibility. And I was thinking about that, and when you wrestle with pigs, you get covered in shit, right? If you engage in a poo flinging competition, you're going to get covered in poo. There's no real winner in any of this. Chille's not going to win. Let's just say that Chille runs Kate out of money. Let's just say he does that. He's not going to get her taken off the internet. He's not going to get damages. I'm sorry, dude. You have a shit case. If Kate does go pro per, I don't think you're competent enough. Judging by your pleadings, I don't think you're competent enough to actually prevail. I mean, theoretically it is possible, and theoretically Kate could really F it up. But if I'm not suggesting at all, by the way, for the chowderheads out there, I'm not suggesting that Kate goes pro per. Again, my recommendation, my suggestion is still that she teams up with Josh Abrams. They split the bill for Joshua Garrick, the attorney that's currently representing Abrams, and they diffuse the costs into a more manageable monthly allotment. So, but I'm just saying that, like, the odds of Chille getting a judgment are somewhere between slim and none, just out of the gate. And then the odds of Chille being able to enforce the judgment, because this is what everybody, even still in my comments, people are still like, oh, I hope Kate gets attorney's fees. I hope Kate sues and gets a judgment against Chille, because people assume that once you have the judgment that money's automatically coming. And it's not. It's not. It's in somebody else's wallet. It's in somebody else's bank account. And just because you have a judgment doesn't mean that they're going to be like, oh, well, here you go. Here's your money. There is a whole process in place for enforcing judgments. There's a whole process in place. It takes time and it costs money. There are mechanisms in place, debtors examinations, order for examination, where you pay the court money for the court to issue an order that the debtor has to come in and answer your questions under penalty of perjury. And then you could ask them, what bank are you using? What's the bank account number? Do you own any vehicles? How much do you owe on the vehicles? Do you own any real property? How much do you owe on the property? And then you could use that money to try to foreclose on their property to get paid. You could use that to try to levy their bank account. You could use it to try to garnish their wages. You could try all these things, but these debtors, especially debtors like Chille, who've been carrying judgments against them and debts against them for a long time, they're judgment proof. There's judgments against Chille that people haven't been able to collect on. Because you like, let's just say that you pay the money and you take the time, you get Chille in and he answers your questions. And let's say he's even honest. Yeah, my money's in this bank. All he has to do is walk out of that door, pull his money out of that bank account, because it takes time and money to get a sheriff to go levy that bank account. So he walks out the door, pulls the money out of that bank, opens up a checking account in another bank. And then what? You pay the money, sheriff goes out, serves the levy on the bank. Bank says, dude doesn't have any money here. Sheriff's been paid his $25 or whatever. Your state may vary. And the sheriff sends back a notice. Oh, sorry, dude. Like, you lose, try again. And you could only do the OEX like once every 6 months in California. Your state will vary. But having a judgment is not always as useful as you think. It's not always as useful as you think. If Kate gets an award of attorney's fees, she may never collect it. There's a high probability she may never collect it. If she gets a judgment against Josh, which I don't think she will get, high probability she'll never, or judgment against Chille, high probability she'll never be able to collect it. It wouldn't be worth her time and money to try. He doesn't have any. He does, like, if he was a real estate mogul and he had 3 houses. Let's just pretend he had 3 houses. Then she might be able to foreclose on one of the houses to get paid out of the sale. But that costs money too. It costs a lot of money. I mean, you gotta basically like put up a bond. At least in California, you have to put up a bond to cover any earlier mortgages, it gets pretty stupid. Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh yeah. So nobody looks good out of this. Chille doesn't look good out of this. Obviously, I mean, the internet's laughing at him, not with him. And Kate doesn't look good in this because she's spent a shit ton of money. The only person, weirdly enough, who looks good in this is Bitch Tits Bob, Josh. Like, I'm not a fan of Josh, but Josh looks good in this. Why? He's kept his head down. He's kept his mouth shut. He's not slinging poop. No one's slinging poop back at him. He's staying clean at this point. He's in the background staying clean. No one wins in a poop flinging competition. No one comes out of a poop flinging competition clean. So that's why I try not to. Oh, you're like, oh, well, you're flinging poop on the internet. Really? Like, if I'm filing protection orders. I'm filing copyright strikes. I mean, look how bad Blue Bacon looks from that copyright strike he filed on Rights On. Look how bad he looks from that. By the way, he hasn't filed that copyright strike on me. But look how bad he looks. I mean, you fling poop, you get covered in poop. I mean, unless you're dead right. If you're dead right, fine. Enforce your copyright. If it looks like you're clearly going to win, great. If someone's actually like knocking on your door, stalking you, not on the internet, but like in real life, stalking you, and you go get a protection order, I don't think anybody's going to care. But if you challenge someone to a fist fight and then you get a protection order, I mean, you look stupid. Just stop. I'm not really particularly pleased with all the drama that I've been exposed to lately. I'm not a huge drama fan. You might think I am, but you might also notice that I really try to talk about legal issues. I try to talk about ethics issues, like hypocrisy and lying. Those are 2 big ethical issues that I like to talk about. I don't really like to cover the drama. So-and-so said such and such about so-and-so. I don't really like to do that. And I've been exposed to a lot of that in my Discord server over the last week or so, maybe 2 weeks, and I'm just not really enjoying it. But I want everybody to remember, this is the internet. This isn't real life. Lighten up. Relax. If someone calls you a name, someone that you've never met calls you a name, someone you'll never meet in real life calls you a name, who cares? Who cares? You've got your health, you've got your family, you've got your job, you've got whatever. Who cares? Let it go. You don't have to respond to every petty insult. Let it go. I mean, unless you really like the drama, in which case you do you, boo. But remember, You wrestle with pigs, you end up covered in shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.